Welcome everyone to ApprovalMax Integrating ApprovalMax and NetSuite for Stronger Approval Processes webinar. We're going to kick off our agenda today. We're going to meet the team. We're going to do some housekeeping. We're also going to do some polls and we're going to have a Q&A. So please ask any questions that you have in the Q&A buttons at the bottom of your screen. Thank you. We're going to meet our speakers. My name is Dee. I'm the Head of Product Marketing here at ApprovalMax, and I'm joined today by Julia Bright, Head of Finance at Quantum Brilliance. Say hi, Julia.
Hi, Dee, and hi, everyone who joined. Thank you so much for your time. I hope it will be very informative.
Thanks, Julia. We've got quite a few people on the call that are thinking about becoming ApprovalMax customers. ApprovalMax is a robust AP and AR automation that puts you in control. It's trusted worldwide by businesses, accountants, and bookkeepers to strengthen internal financial controls, all in a single platform. Julia, can you please tell us a little bit about Quantum Brilliance?
Well, thank you, Dee. Quantum Brilliance is a deep tech company developing quantum computers powered by diamonds, and they are supposed to work at room temperature. So this includes a lot of research, building hardware and software for quantum computers. And our vision is to enable quantum accelerators for mass deployment to harness the edge computing applications. So obviously it is a very research and R&D heavy complex business. We work with many government agencies across Australia, Europe, and the US, and hence our reporting and audit standards are very high. The company grew from 20 to 85 people in just 3 years, and we are always on the lookout for these flexible and scalable solutions to help us stay lean and focused.
Brilliant. Thanks, Julia. Let's jump right in. Julia, I've got a question to ask you. What features of ApprovalMax do you find most valuable?
Great question. First things first, I think that for us, the most valuable feature was the flexibility. ApprovalMax is an approval flow tool, but it allows you to include multiple dimensions and conditions to direct your workflow. Admins have a clear dashboards to map and test flows in real time. It's easy to set up and edit the workflows as needed. And then users also have the opportunity to redirect workflows if they don't feel comfortable approving things. And still, the admins will get notified. And this all happens within the company framework. It's not just some Wild West happening there. So our main point with standard NetSuite approvals was that the approvals were scripted and they were very complex. We had to hire external consultants to help us with that, and because we couldn't use the default NetSuite approvals. So we knew how to do some changes, but then if anything major popped up, we had to go back to our consultants and pay a couple of $1,000s to make even the minor changes.
Yeah.
So switching to ApprovalMax actually gave us this flexibility in a startup environment. Things change fast. You need to stay agile, and you really want to have that opportunity to tweak things as you go. So this is why we switched to ApprovalMax. That helped us as finance team tremendously, but also significantly improved the user experience, because NetSuite is a complex tool and it can be very frustrating for non-finance users sometimes. This is why it's a win-win for both.
Thank you, Julia. You also are going to talk to us a little bit about standalone workflows.
Yeah, that's a great feature. ApprovalMax is not limited to only bills and purchase orders or sales orders and invoices, as would be the standard functionality for approvals. There is also this simple and highly customizable standalone workflow. So you can use it for pretty much anything. For example, we use it for approving international travel beforehand. So before that, it was all in emails, people emailing back and forth. Some details were not captured. And then most obviously, it was very hard to aggregate this data and analyze it and match it to the actuals. So now we have this standardized template in ApprovalMax. We know that the users will put all the data that we require. We can then go and, pull out our reports, match them to actuals, analyze what has been done right or wrong. And it's so easy. It saved us like 2 days of work between two people to just aggregate and consolidate the data for travel reports.
Wow, that's a great saving, 2 days. Standalone workflows. Thank you.
We travel a lot, yes.
You, you do. Custom fields. I know that NetSuite and ApprovalMax have custom fields. Can you take our participants through this one, please, Julia?
Yes, this is actually a very valuable feature, and one of the things that actually we were looking for when looking for a different solution for approval flows. Many people, like many companies, switch to NetSuite because it allows this additional functionality without realizing that, you may not be able to benefit fully from that additional functionality. So because we have different government grants and we work with different agencies, there are many things that we need to report on and many things that we need to track. And this is why we have these customized fields like CapEx type or different project attributes. And it was so easy to just push them into ApprovalMax and synchronize them. So we don't need to upload anything manually. The lists are just simply synchronized between ApprovalMax and NetSuite. Whenever something new pops up in NetSuite, whenever we need to create a new project type or CapEx type, it just moves smoothly into ApprovalMax and we don't need to worry about any manual uploads or anything. And it was so critical for us because we work in different time zones. We have a few companies in different countries, and we didn't want any delays, for manual updates. This instantaneous syncing was a lifesaver for us. Really cool feature.
That's awesome. Thank you, Julia. We're now going to go into the direct syncing with NetSuite and other dimensions. Please let us know a little bit about this one.
So yes, as I mentioned before, automatic sync is actually not as common as you may expect in the 21st century. Mm-hmm. So in some tools, you actually have different dimensions, but you need to upload the lists manually. And whenever something changes, a coding change, you still need to go back in each separate tool and update things there. This is not very easy. You need to remember to do everything. And over time, these changes grow and grow, and the sort of this impact of is being aggregated. And sometimes it just causes delays because lists are not synchronized between tools. This is why this automatic synchronization works really great for us, especially once again with the time zones. So we don't need to upload the chart of accounts or departments or locations, all the GL analytics, all the projects, all the other customized fields list. They're just updated straight away whenever you input them into NetSuite. And as I mentioned, because we track them across most of purchase orders and bills, it is critical for us to have this instantaneous synchronization so that people can, book their purchase orders straight away and we don't delay any purchasing processes.
And then that means that everybody has visibility right in real time. Is that correct, Julia?
Yes, absolutely. We know that once the system is updated, we don't need to notify people separately. They just go and they see what they need to see. Yes, that's right.
Brilliant. New vendor. Let us know a little bit about this functionality.
Well, when we worked in NetSuite, we had a few designated people who could create vendors. And when ApprovalMax added this feature to their functionality, we were very happy, really, because before that, with the time differences and, you know, just general workload, finance for a few months was a proper bottleneck, because people would send us an email asking to create a vendor, and then finance would need to go and do this in NetSuite. And then, you know, oh, we've done this, can you please now raise a purchase order? So it was a bit of a back and forth. So now that users can do this in ApprovalMax, we're back to that setting where we have a few designated users. Again, we don't allow everyone to do that, obviously. We have a few designated users who know what they're doing, who know, like, you know, what vendors already exist. They know how to do their checks, so there are no duplicates. And these users can now go and create a vendor in ApprovalMax. So again, they don't need a separate NetSuite license. We don't need to set up certain rights for them. So we were able to reduce many NetSuite licenses we're using, and teams are, you know, it allows this flexibility for teams where they have their designated person in their location, in their time zone, and they know exactly who to talk to and what needs to happen. Again, no delays, everything works smoothly. It's a great feature. And I mean, it's a small thing, but it improves user experience dramatically, really.
And also that means, Julia, that if the new vendors are created in ApprovalMax, you don't have duplication of vendors, and you also can't pay the wrong vendor. Is that correct?
Well, true, because only well-trained and knowledgeable people create those vendors. They do not create duplicates. There are certain checks inside where you know what fields you need to fill in, that like you know how to check whether this vendor already exists or not. So it does work smoothly. It sort of adds another layer of control over your data.
Brilliant, thank you. User notifications.
Oh, this one. This one is actually, I think it is quite often overlooked, but when we switched to NetSuite, and we set up those approval flows, they were all through emails. And user experience was, well, not great. Okay, let's say that. Email notifications were lost, ignored. People didn't have any control over that. Even something as simple as, you know, delegating your approval flows when you're away or when you go on vacation wasn't available to a user. So they had to go once again through the finance team. Finance team had to do a bit of a scripting, and none of us knows properly how to script. And then once the person is back, they had to say, hey, I'm back. Can you please switch my approvals back? And we had to do that, but whatever, in the meantime, whatever happened just happened. And, you know, it was all over the place. Really frustrating for something as easy as just, you know, delegating your access. So now users are in full control of their notifications. They can choose what they receive and when. Do they need certain alerts or not? They can adjust their notifications to their pace and schedules. The notifications work in their time zones, not our time zones, which is, again, a great feature. So, for example, I only review my approvals like once a day, so I don't need all those emails coming through. I just receive one a day, and I know that I need to do, you know, and check all my fields, whatever is pending my approval. And I've heard this feedback from other users where they thoroughly enjoyed that they have this control over their inbox, over their notifications, and even setting up a delegate is now as easy as just, you know, going there, choosing the next person, choosing the time frame, and off you go. You don't need to worry about emails on your weekends or holidays.
Well, that would be very nice if we all had that luxury. Thank you, Julia. I just want to remind the audience that the Q&A. So does anybody have any questions for Julia so far on anything that they've seen? Please put it in the Q&A section for all of us to see. And our experts, either Julia will answer them live on the call, or our experts will answer them. No questions so far? Everybody's a little bit shy this morning. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Julia, the next one we've got is workflows. How has this changed the way you use ApprovalMax?
Yes, so we have 4 steps in each workflow, and we were able to actually redirect and implement some new features which we couldn't have in NetSuite because we didn't know how to script it. So currently it's by department, by project, by value threshold. And then another great feature that we've added is we can direct the workflow by the expense category or item. We have companies in 4 countries, but our approval flows are not country driven. They're, function driven or project driven. And this essentially means that our workflows are pretty much the same across each country and each legal entity. This is why this ability to copy workflows between the entities was a real lifesaver during and time saver during the implementation process, because once you set up the workflow, you can then copy. So we've set up the workflow for the purchase order, and then we copied it to the bill workflow, and then we were able to copy this whole thing to the other 3 entities. And sometimes you need to make a minor tweak for one user, for one approver, and then you just copy that same thing for this user across all entities. Sometimes you need to copy, approval rules from one user to another because now there are 2 approvers who work simultaneously. And it is just as easy as literally just copying. You don't need to retype everything and enter things manually. And I guess the real benefit of it is that, well, it is very manual and it takes some time to do this, and you don't want to do things over and over and over again. It really prevents you from making mistakes as you re-enter one and the same thing many times over. Obviously, you only need to do this once. Well, we had to do it twice because we had a major overhaul within the company, but this ability to copy workflows was a real time saver. And not only you can copy workflows between purchase orders and bills, for example, we were actually able to apply the same logic to standalone workflows, I think.
Oh, right.
So yeah, very flexible tool. If there is one word that I can say about ApprovalMax is that it's flexible. Really love it about the program.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic, Julia. Thank you. We've got another question for you. What type of data or information is shared between NetSuite and ApprovalMax as part of the integration? But also, how does that data synchronization enhance the overall user experience?
So yes, we have a few things that we need to capture. So this is our standard bill. But again, the data flows from purchase order to bill, going back and forth. So this is all the fields that we need to fill in. The users sometimes use these, they make these little comments for them. And it was very easy for us to, to structure the way the data flows between NetSuite and ApprovalMax. We actually have the best of the both worlds. I think when many companies switch to NetSuite because it allows to handle these complex accounting tasks and reporting tasks for consolidation and other features, but it is also expensive. And both in terms of licenses and maintenance and, customization and setting up. So this is why the ability to do this at lower rates in-house without, having to explain to external consultants all your logic And then whenever that logic changes go through this whole cycle once again, it is easier for us to do this in-house. And we have that ability because the interface in ApprovalMax is so user-friendly. Even accountants, even people with no scripting experience can do that. That was really, really cool. And because everything synchronizes automatically between ApprovalMax and NetSuite, things just work smoothly. You have the best of both worlds. For example, I mostly work in NetSuite. I'm a finance person. So whenever I have to track something, I look it up in NetSuite. But I also have an opportunity to go back to ApprovalMax just by, clicking the link. And it opens a new window and I can see what happened in ApprovalMax. If I'm too lazy to do that, I can always go down into this little file section, open an attachment, and I can see the PDF audit trail of what has been done and the approvals that have been made for this particular document. And it's all in one place. The user experience for both requesters and finance people is amazing because non-finance people don't need to worry about ApprovalMax, about NetSuite anymore. They don't want this confusion. They just go to ApprovalMax and they see, okay, my purchase order has been billed already, or it has been paid. Now I need to track where my items are. So this kind of thing. So they have this full visibility of their purchase orders, of their documents, of what their teams are doing. So because some of I think approvers have this reporting functionality when they can see what has been done with the documents that they've approved and what's the status of their teams. We in finance mostly work with NetSuite, obviously, and we have again this full overview of what happened to the document before it popped up in finance, in NetSuite. We have this confidence that it went through the proper process. We have this confidence that we'll have proper documentation for our auditors showing, this logged audit trail. And we are notified whenever something changes, sometimes users change things either in NetSuite or in ApprovalMax, and immediately administrators are notified and we stay on top of all things going on. So there are a few sort of fraud checks or just change checks, which we stay on top of, and we know, okay, that makes sense, that probably I want to look into this. So you have this confidence when using both tools. Really, really good. And I mean, for us, this improvement in user experience from non-finance people was just amazing.
Thank you, Julia. Was it? Well, that's nice to hear. What we were looking at on the screen as you were just talking before was the two interfaces. So we've got the NetSuite one up here and then the ApprovalMax one. And as you said before, there's a link in NetSuite where you can just automatically click and then it takes you straight through to the ApprovalMax items, and you can look at all your purchase orders in one go.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Brilliant.
So you can choose the dimension you want to look at, because different roles have different needs, and they're keen to see different things about the document. So this is why I like this setup where you have different views of one and the same document.
Brilliant, thank you. And then just to reiterate this was the NetSuite UI rather, where all of your attachments and files are.
So yes,
and then you can
this is
see them.
The great thing when users raise purchase orders in ApprovalMax, they attach whatever quotes. Then once the purchase order is approved, we have this thing set up where NetSuite generates a purchase order PDF in our own template. So we've set up the template. This is something that we own. It has our logo. It has all the things that we need to have on the purchase order. This PDF is then saved in NetSuite and synced back to ApprovalMax. And once the approval is finalized in ApprovalMax, the user have the option to actually tick the box, so it's emailed automatically to the vendor, so they don't need to worry, oh, my manager is in Australia and I have to wait for 8 hours for them to approve, but then the vendor is in Japan and then they'll have to wait another 8 hours to receive the PDF. Well, now it's, it's all automated. Someone in Germany raised the PO, it has been approved in Australia, and it went out to the vendor in Japan in the same day. So it's like, it saves so much time, really amazing. So yes, once you have those PDF purchase orders, they sync between the two systems. When we bill in NetSuite, and this is done by finance team here, we attach the bill in the same section. So now we have all in one place, and all approval flows, like we have the PDF document of the purchase order, we have the PDF trail of the approval flow, we have the bill itself, and it's all sitting nicely in this one place. So you don't need to run around systems to find the documents for your auditors, for example. Or when you try to make payments, everything sits in one place and you don't need to worry about, jumping from document to document to get bank details or confirm it has been approved. All this jazz all works smoothly and saves a lot of time.
I just went back to this slide because it's just cut off at the bottom, but all of the documents appear here. And as you were just saying, you can also open up the audit report in ApprovalMax, this little button here. So all of your documents, as you said, Julia, are all in the same place. Very easy audit, easy ready for you. Lovely. Moving right along. How has the integration impacted your finance and accounting workflows, and what specific efficiencies or time savings have you realized?
Well, yes. So before I joined the company, they were on Xero, and then they switched to NetSuite. So I came in this transition period where they were just trying to get used to NetSuite and trying to navigate their way, and Xero is very easy and intuitive for users. And we had ApprovalMax integrated with Xero back then. So when these, very relaxed users had to switch to NetSuite, it was a bit of a shocker for them. And even for finance people, I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what our approval flows look like in NetSuite. And we look at it, and all I understand about this is that it's very complex. How do I fix this?
Very complex.
How do I redirect this? No idea. Again, I have to go to those external consultants. And that was the constant struggle that we had. Not only users were not happy, finance didn't have control over the approval flows. We had to make little sacrifices here and there just because we couldn't fix the workflows. And this is why when we switched to ApprovalMax, I was so happy to see that ApprovalMax finally, has this feature of integrating with NetSuite. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I've used ApprovalMax in a different company before. That should be an easy fix. And users within the company used ApprovalMax before, so it was a sort of easy fix for us. But as I said, we have 4 legal entities. We have at least 30 users in ApprovalMax. We have 4 approval steps. And then on top of that, we integrated other things that we like, to direct the workflows. So this is what our approval flows work in ApprovalMax now. A lot of people involved because we have this rather flat structure. But because it is flat, many people are approving many things. It looks complex, but it was actually very easy to set up. The initial setup took me probably about a week, and I've been working very closely with the ApprovalMax support team And you need to understand, we were one of the first users of this NetSuite ApprovalMax integration. So a few things need to be polished. But now I think things have improved dramatically. Just recently, a few months ago, we had a major organization overhaul where we switched from this, hierarchical departmental structure to flat business unit structure. So that was a lot of change for us. And I don't even want to think what it would have looked like in NetSuite. But in ApprovalMax, it took me, a day, less than a day, like in FTE terms. So it took me a day just to sit down, map all the workflows to the new projects, to the new business unit structure. And the good thing is that whenever you put something in ApprovalMax, you can apply it to the existing invoices, and you can see straight away, does it work the way you intended or not? So there is not much back and forth, for testing. And you can apply and reapply, you can restart the approval flow. So you can see straight away how things work. And it took me just a day to adjust it. The next time we had to, change the approval flow significantly. I hope never to do this again, or at least not in the next 12 months. But it was easy. It was an amazing experience. I dreaded it a little bit, but now I'm so open to change whatever. We're flexible and scalable. Whatever the business needs, we can fit.
That's brilliant.
So that was the great thing.
That's lovely, Julia. Thank you. You were saying this exercise in NetSuite would have taken you way more than a day.
Oh, I don't want to think about this honestly, but well, if I have to imagine, well, we would have to hire those external consultants once again. We would have to explain them the whole structure. Obviously, we had the approval flows mapped, but we have it in our head. We have it, functionally. But then I don't know how it works in NetSuite. What fields, what connections in NetSuite do you need to script for it to work properly? So then I would have to explain all that to the external consultant. They would script that, then we'll have to test and rescript and probably test again. And then hopefully it would work. It would be thousands of dollars, no less.
Goodness.
I mean, it's not that my day is not thousands of dollars, unfortunately.
Well,
but
we
yes,
all
it was a
wish
much
our days.
smoother experience, and it was less stressful. I did it at my own pace, at my own time. I sat down on the weekend when no one was in the system. I did all that, and on Monday everything was up and running.
Oh, that's nice to hear. So there was no time lost in the business either.
Well, if you don't count my Sunday, then yes.
Yeah, that's correct, Julia. Thank you. Julia, can you please walk us through this slide where you've had significant improvements?
Yes. Well, user experience was a big pain point for us. Users literally hated the experience. Everyone was complaining. Approvals were delayed. We had to chase approvers. Requesters didn't understand what they need to do to get the purchase order into the system. Sometimes they would fill in but forget to click submit or whatever, little things. And when we switched to ApprovalMax, because the user, the interface is so intuitive, we had a couple of training sessions for each country. We put together manuals and instructions, what needs to be done. We have this, I think in ApprovalMax, you can have this sort of heading where you say, okay, if you want to do this, you need to fill in these fields. Obviously, the drop-down lists help. So we were able to tweak the system so that it is most user-friendly. Users cannot touch things that they shouldn't be touching, and they know that some fields are mandatory and they cannot submit without that. So that helped tremendously. And this is why we had this, very easy implementation process, because it was such a smooth change and a much better user experience. And even for us in finance, now we don't have to deal with, those grumpy users. We don't need to chase people to approve their bills before they're overdue. We have a better visibility of where each approval sits. And sometimes if we need to chase, we know exactly where we need to go. So I think it was a better outcome for sort of both sides of the process. And we don't have these timing delays because of the, time differences between the countries. Many things are just done automatically. Another thing which I really loved, I wanted to implement this in NetSuite for a long time, but we didn't know how to. For example, our standard workflows go by department or project, but we wanted to have this additional layer of visibility for different expense categories. For example, for training, now we added another layer of approval for all training or education within the company. So now HR has this full visibility of what's going on with different departments, what their training needs are, what vendors they're using. And sometimes, it just helps to redirect. Okay, so, we actually have a company-wide training center, so you don't need to work with this smaller vendor here. You can benefit from this company-wide training supplier. And at least they have the full visibility of what's going on in terms of training. Same thing with subscriptions or computer purchases. So previously it was a bit decentralized when people were signing up for things here and there. Now it all goes through the IT department, because we managed to input this little thing where, okay, so every software subscription approval needs to also go to the head of IT. And now he has this full visibility of what is happening. And sometimes when someone wants to get another Adobe subscription or whatever, he's like, look, we have a company account. Why don't you just, join the company account? So it helps with billing, with administration, with so many things when you think about it. And obviously this, broader visibility helps to manage things and processes within the company. That was another big thing for us. And I think it really added value in terms of how we control and manage expenses within QB. And yes, this last thing, standardizing requests. When people get approvals via emails, it's all like, okay, I think this is important, but I forgot to put the numbers. Or I put the numbers in euro, but not in Australian dollars. So when you try to summarize it, sometimes you're missing data. Sometimes your data is incomplete. Sometimes it's not numbers, but text. I mean, text. Why would people put numbers in text? But this is what happens all the time. So when you try to aggregate this data and analyze it and see, okay, so this is what has been requested and this is what has been spent, or, okay, so this is what has been requested. So next month, we probably need to allow more money in our credit cards. So these kind of things help you stay on top of your business operations. And because you have this visibility and it's all structured, you just pull out a report and you see it. You don't need to shuffle through emails. It is really a time saver. And even the same goes for other approvals, because we have these little notes. Okay, so if you want to purchase this, you need to choose this tax code, or you need to choose this expense category. So it is much, much easier for us now because we have these standardized workflows.
Yes.
And the data we receive is much, much cleaner and easier to operate.
And also, Julia, as you were saying before, all of the intel, all of the conversations stay within the system rather than being out on emails, out on Slack. They're all in the system. So when anybody looks back, they can see what happened.
This is actually very true, because one of the problems we had was that the approvals would go between managers or between, CEO and managers, and finance has not been included all the way until all of a sudden we see that on our card statements. What's that?
Whoops.
But now I have this visibility upfront. I know what's coming. I know where I need to shuffle my card limits. I know when I need to, prepare some money. I know how to manage my cash flow. And obviously, whenever you have this clean data, I don't need to chase people. It saves so much time, because I'm like, what's that? They're like, oh, I forgot to tell you. Well, thank you very much. It's my reporting period. Can you do it now, please? It's not happening anymore. I just access the reports at my own time, and I know it's all there. And whatever is not there, that means it hasn't been approved. Well,
Yes.
you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. That's lovely. Thanks, Julia. We've actually now got a quiz for our audience. Can we launch the quiz, please? And so what we'd like to know, this is a two-part quiz actually. What we'd like to know is, which areas are you experiencing the most challenges in? Is it AP or AR? Oh my goodness, look at that. I can see the results on this end, and Justin will share them in a moment, but we will just wait for all of our audience to provide some answers. Before it was 100% AP, so other people have joined the conversation. Thank you for that. And now it's 80-20. We'll just wait one more moment and see if anybody else is going to participate. And then, Justin, are you able to share the results of that poll? I can see them. Brilliant. They are 80% AP and 20% AR. Now, this is a two-part question. So we will then do the second part of that, which is, what is your main pain point driving your consideration of changing your approval workflows? And there's a number of options there. We've got automation, we've got cost, we've got audit trails, and we've got visibility. Justin, can you please share the results? So far, we've got 50% for visibility, 33% for automation, and 17% for audit trails. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining our webinar today. We hope that these updates are going to save you time and money while improving your processes. I'd like to thank Julia again for taking the time to join us today to talk about ApprovalMax and NetSuite. Julia?
Thank you very much, Dee, for this chance to share my experience. Thank you, everyone who joined. I hope that was useful, and I hope you will have the same good user experience as I did with ApprovalMax. Thank you for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you, Julia. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining.